Hey everybody, welcome to Live Free and Tool On. Today we have a very special episode. We will be installing this Pelpro PP130 pellet stove. Now I'm really excited about this because it's actually going in my house, and I have a very old house from 1794. Yes, it is over 200 years old, which means it doesn't have very good insulation. And currently I have a forced hot water boiler system which runs off radiators and convectors that cost a fortune because it's on propane. Now it's clean burning, but it's really hard to keep the house warm. And I also live in New England, so it does get really cold in the winters. And as everyone knows, if you live in a cold weather climate, you need two sources of heat. So this is going to actually be my third source of heat because I have a wood burning stove as well. But contrary to popular belief, it really doesn't heat my house well, so we don't use it that much either. So I'm hoping by putting in this pellet stove, it's really going to help my house heat well, and it's going to keep my kids comfortable. I have 6 children ranging from less than 1 year old up to 11 years old, so I really have to maintain the heat in the house to keep them warm and without breaking the bank as much as I have over the past few years. So a little bit about this pellet stove. I sourced it locally. I got it from Tractor Supply, which means it's going to be easy for me to get parts for it. The model number is PP130, as I said. This is rated for 50,000 BTUs. It can heat a house up to 2,500 square feet as well. So it really does produce a lot of heat. And the great thing about it is it has thousands of positive reviews online. I'm talking 4 out of 5 or even 5 out of 5 reviews online. So I was really confident when I was buying it. So, and the price that I paid was right around $1,000, maybe $1,200 for this particular unit. So I can't complain, and I think it's going to save me on the back end. It does have a local thermostat, so the thermostat's built into it. It has 10 heat settings to that thermostat as well, and the heat settings is just how fast you're going to be burning and heating your house. The hopper on top, this can hold up to 130 pounds as it sits right now. But you can actually get an extension that goes on top, and it can hold up to 330 pounds. Now, I don't think I'm going to have a use to have a 330 pound hopper because I will have the pellets out on the porch in a nice sealed container. So I'm confident it's going to serve the purposes that I'm really looking for it to serve. Now, this video is not going to be a skip video or a time lapse. I'm going to go in depth, and I'm going to talk about the installation as I get this done. And what I mean by that is it's still sitting on its crate. So I'm going to uncrate it, I'm going to sit it onto its base, and then we're just going to install the whole thing start to finish. And I'm hoping this is the video that may help you. Now, let's take a minute and talk about the tools that you're going to need in order to install this. Starting out, you're going to need basic hand tools. These are very simple things: pliers, screwdrivers, anything that you would really keep in a little tool bag. Yeah, keep those along. Knife. Next thing, make sure that you have all the accessories that came with the particular pellet stove here. So right here, this is the fresh air kit. The electrical cord that goes to it. This does run off typical 120 volts. You'll need your venting, and this is 3-inch B venting, which means it's a double wall insulated vent, and this takes all the gases of combustion and it puts it outside your house. This is all part of that. This is a thimble. Whenever you go through the walls, you need to make sure you protect the ducting or the vent. The vent actually cannot touch anything by itself, so you need big thimbles, and those are just protective barriers to go against any combustible materials. So we're all set there. And then in order to seal all of the venting together, you are going to need to have RTV, this is sealant, so either called gasket maker or just red RTV. So that's high temperature silicone sealant. And then you're going to need to have a drill. This is really going to help you because you have to make holes in your house in order to get this done. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. First, let's take this thing off of the crate and get it set onto the fireproof platform, in which we made as well. Okay, so you're looking at the side, and this is the back of the pellet stove. We have 1, 2, 3 bolts in the back. We're going to need to remove these bolts, and they have lag bolts that actually bolt this to the crate itself. So let's go ahead and take this off. I find it easier just to go ahead and lock it into my drill, and then we can take it off in reverse. Do it to both sides. And this is a 3/8 inch hex nut. So this will slide off this way and it comes right back. So if we look down in here, we have two bolts in there. And there's two. I did put an extension on it, makes it a little bit easier getting to these tight spots. Now let's do this to the other side. Okay, now we have the bolts out on both sides, so the pellet stove's free. We'll be able to move it into place. Okay, so the best way that I can think to do this to be gentle is to just pick this up, and I'm going to rock it into place to get it onto this non-combustible tile floor that we've created for this. So I'm just going to take my time and just try to maneuver it here as easy as possible. Okay, so it's in place. That wasn't too hard. I just wanted to make sure I took my time. It did have blocking underneath the pellet stove, so really had to make sure that I was taking my time and being very gentle, because I am by myself right now, and you really want to help her in order to get this done. So if you have you know, a really strong son, nephew, someone else, daughter, whatever, that can help you do this, or just friend, you would probably want them to do that as well. Okay, now that we have this set, we have a few clearance items that we need to take care of. Now, you have to follow all of your manufacturer's instructions in order to do this safely. So what we're going to do now, this stove calls for the non-combustible base to extend 6 inches further than the face of the pellet stove itself. So look at the face here. I actually have 9 and 10 inches. So 9 inches for the non-combustibles all the way around. Then I have a decorative piece of wood here, and that's over 10 inches away. So I have most definitely enough clearances that I need for this particular pellet stove. Okay, so the back of the pellet stove, from the corner to the wall on each side, the minimum clearance that I have to have is 3 inches. Right now I have 5.5 inches, and I have 6 inches on that side. So I know that I'm going to clear everything just fine. So my non-combustible base meets the manufacturer specifications for insulation. So does all my clearances to combustibles here. I do already have electricity provided in the back, so there's no worries there. So now all we need to do is start to look at our venting and our fresh air intake. Okay everybody, so now it's time to do the venting and the fresh air for the pellet. Before we get started on that, let's talk a little bit about the venting that you have to use. You have to use L or PL type venting. That's double wall venting, but it's made for pellet stoves and then some other higher temperature appliances. The reason why you have to use type P or PL is because of the heat rating. If you use type B, which is double wall, for gas appliances, that's really only rated up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, where this goes up to 500 degrees Fahrenheit and a little above, depending on the manufacturer. So you really do need these because your exhaust gases are a higher temperature. So the first thing that you need coming off the back of the pellet stove is the adapter. So you can see it's 3 inches in diameter, inside diameter. This is going to slide over, and you do need to put 3 screws into this, and it's hard to see from here, but I'm going to bring the camera in a little closer. We're going to put 3 screws into it so we know that this stays in place. The next part, this is going to be your clean out tee, and the reason why it's a clean out tee is so it is easily accessible. Like this, it comes off, so when you're maintenance, you can take it, screw it on, screw it off, and it has a nice tight seal. But the gases in it will be oriented this way, so the gases of combustion will come out it'll go straight up and then outside the house. And when you have the unit off, you can clean the soot and whatever you want to out of there. So pretty standard stuff here. So let's get this installed. We'll dry fit everything up, and then we'll see where we need to make the penetration through the wall, and then we'll get that done. Also, let's talk about the fresh air intake. The fresh air intake is usually the smaller hose that's on the back of it. Now, it's really important, and it's a lot of times overlooked on the fresh air intakes for a pellet stove. The reason why is because your combustion air in your house, it has to be a lot. And if you don't have a fresh air intake, well, you may be surprised on the side effects that it may cause on your pellet stove. In order to create enough combustion air, the typical calculation is 50 cubic feet per 1,000 BTUs. Now, this is a 50,000 BTU unit, so we're going to do 50 times 50. And that requires us to have 2,500 cubic feet. Now, and that's in the contiguous space of where you're at. So it all has to be one big space with no doors, because if you close the door, that's going to cause an issue. And if you don't have enough air within that space, well, then you can have a low oxygen or a low combustion air situation, which is going to soot up your system. It's not going to work right. And the biggest part of that is your carbon monoxide is going to build, because when you don't have complete combustion, it does create a health and hazard concern. So always use your combustion air, your fresh air kit. And if you don't have one, you really should consider getting one just for safety purposes. And then plus, you're not sucking the air out of your own house and putting it outside. You're using fresh air outside, so you're going to maintain a temperature a lot higher in your house, and you're just not throwing it outside like you would kind of like a dryer itself. So first, let's go ahead. We're going to mark everything out on the walls. We're going to dry fit it up. And for your fresh air intake here, before you install it, you need to make sure there's typically a knockout on the back of this where this tube connects here, and you'll need to knock it out, and then it'll be able to take the air from here instead of the house. Okay, you have to use 3 screws equal all the way around. So we're going to put one here, one on the bottom, one in the back. That's going to help us out. Okay, now that we have the clean out tee on, and we have the adapter on, it's all screwed in. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to dry fit the piping up to the point that you want to exit the house. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so this is the actual height that I want it to be. Now I'm going to put the stove in place. I'm going to mark the areas on the wall where I need to make the holes. Okay, now I know I have all the clearances around. Let's pivot this. Okay, so this is where I want it to be. Okay, now we know where the hole's at. Let's drill a pilot hole straight through to make sure it's going to come out on the other side of the wall where we want it to. More importantly, we need to make sure there's no electrical or there's any studs here, so make sure you knock on the wall or you scan the wall as much as possible to make sure it's safe. I'm not hitting anything. So one thing that you have to understand is that you just don't cut a hole and you put the vent through the wall. Even though it is a double vent, you actually have to use what's called a thimble. So this is a pipe and a pipe. This goes, it clamshells onto the wall itself like that, and then your pipe goes through. And what this does is this protects the pipe from anything touching it within the wall cavity and gives it that nice cool air barrier there. So now it's going to be safe when you put it through the wall. So when you make this hole, it's going to be very large, and a hole saw this big, most people aren't going to have this. This is like 7 or 8 inches here. So what you want to do is you want to mark the hole, and then you're going to take a jigsaw, and then you can just jig around it and you cut it. So let's go ahead and get into that. Okay, now that we have the thimble in the wall, it can be protected, everything's good inside of there. But I have a unique situation. This actually goes to a porch. Now, it's not a glass stem porch, it's just a regular porch. So I cannot terminate this on the porch itself. So I actually need to come out, I need to come over. So we'll go through this wall here, and then we'll terminate. So we need to come straight out, we'll make another 45, and we'll go through. Now, as I'm doing this, I need to make sure that I'm pitching the venting a 1/4 inch for every foot that I have. So it needs to be a 1/4 inch from here to here. So right around 1/2 inch that I need to go from here down, and it needs to pitch back to the actual pellet stove itself, because you need that venting effect or the chimney effect where it goes out. So let's go ahead, let's dry fit this up, let's get the venting through here so we can see where it's going to end up here. We'll cut this hole, and then once we have everything finalized, we should be good to go. We need to cut the hole for the fresh air intake. Now, the very important thing about this is never ever drill and try to pull air from inside of the wall. You need to make sure that you pull that fresh air intake all the way through the inside wall and the outside wall, and you terminate it on the outside, because if you try to pull from inside the wall, you are most certainly going to sit up. You're going to have a low oxygen situation for combustion air, and you are going to hurt your system. So let's go ahead, cut that hole. Okay, so now we have the pipe outside. You can see right here is for the fresh air intake. We're going to put the cover on top of it here, and we're going to screw it to the wall. I just wanted to show you, there is no thimble for this because there is no heat. It's just pulling in outside air here, so it's good to pull this straight through the wall. So make sure you have it outside. Make sure that the tube that comes in here, the piping, is very secured into this. You don't want it just wobbling and falling off. Okay, so we know where this is coming out now. This is stable. So what we're going to do is we need to make sure we got the pitch right. And this is where it's going to go. We have a pretty good idea here. We have the right pitch going upward. So I'll make the mark. Okay, so we have the mark. So we're going to rinse and repeat. We're going to do what we did here. We're going to cut the hole here, and then this actually needs a barrier as well. It's not going to be a thimble, but it will just be a metal plate, as to where you have to cut the hole a lot bigger, and then it'll sit and it'll mount inside that plate, so there's no direct contact. So let's go ahead and cut that. Okay, so this fire stop support, it'll actually mount to the outside of the building here, so we can seal it up and make sure we don't have any penetrations. That also leads me to another comment right here. So when you seal up around here, make sure you use your RTV sealant, so it's high temperature, and that's going to allow or not allow drafts to come in and things like that. You really don't want that, so go ahead and make sure you seal it up, and make sure you seal all the way around too, so you don't have water infiltration. The same thing we're going to do with this on the outside. Okay, now that that's on, we're going to put the termination cap that's here. It is directional. Okay, so it's on now. The rain's going to come down this way. I want to make sure it blows away from the building. So it's going to blow this way, We're not really going to have any issues out of this either. I did put snow stops on the roof, but this has to be, the tip of this has to be 6 inches away from the building itself, which we have 8, so we're fine there. And it can't be within 12 inches of any windows or any openings to the house. Of course, this is a porch, so we don't have to worry about that. And we don't have to worry about this side either because there are no windows. So we're good on the outside. We have our fire stop. We have everything here. I'm going to come back and I'm going to seal this just so it doesn't catch any water and funnel it on the inside. And I will seal this as well just for the same reasons. Okay everybody, so we're really close to the finish line. We've got the outside air intake for your combustion air installed. It's sealed. We have the venting installed. It's locked in place. It's sealed. The thimbles are in place. I've sealed inside. We've sealed out, and you've seen how we've routed it. So everything is good there. Now the next thing we need to do, we've checked our work. Everything's good. Everything's tight. We've secondary checked it as well. Now you need to make sure that your pellet stove is actually set up correctly. Now this is going to depend on what manufacturer you have, so it's going to vary greatly depending on what system you have. So please follow your manufacturer's instructions for this particular part. So I made sure that everything's good here. I followed the directions. So we're going to close the lid. Make sure it's secured in place. Now the only thing we need to do is let's put pellets in. Let's prime the hopper inside of it and let's give it its first go. So for this particular model, it's plugged in, so we're good there. I need to turn it from off all the way to high 2 times, complete, and then that'll activate this priming mechanism. Okay, now it's starting. Now for this particular model, it's going to start blinking here. The augers are going to run continuously for 2 minutes, and then once this is primed, the light's going to go solid green, and then once that's done, it's going to start feeding the pellets in. It's going to start it for the first time. Okay, so it's priming. I'm trying to catch this. It's dropping pellets into the basket at the bottom, into the hopper, or I'm sorry, from the hopper into the burn basket. It's hard to see, but there is the ignition that is starting down below, and that's just a resistance-based electric coil. Okay, so now I can see smoke coming up. This is for the first time. Oh, we see some sparks. Okay, so this is really good. I don't have any smoke coming in the house. Something to remember as this happens, there's a lot of oils that they put on this during the manufacturing process, and there's the first flame. But as this happens and the blower motor kicks on, you need to expect to smell a lot of burning in the house because it's going to burn off the oils, it's going to cure the paint. So this recommends running this on high for 30 minutes to cure everything and to burn off all the oils. So it's very normal. That happens in furnaces, it happens in boilers, happens in pellet stoves. So be very aware. But we have some really clean, sharp flames coming off this, and that's exactly what you want right now. But it's starting to just get its first flame, so let's let it burn for a little bit. But this is the exact flame that you want to see coming out of this. Okay everyone, so that is it right now. We are currently in the burn off mode. The blower's running. It is throwing a lot of heat out. It feels absolutely amazing. We're getting ready for winter time right now. It is a little cooler outside, so this is awesome. Now you are going to notice a little bit of smoke from the burn off where the oils and the paint and everything starting to cure. This is on high. That's where you have to burn this off on. So the flame is a little bit higher than what you would typically see on a normal basis. It usually runs on a 2 or a 3. Right now it's on a 10 because we really just want to cure everything up. But I can say I'm super satisfied with it, and I can't wait to use it through the winter. and I guess we'll see how it goes. But please, through the video, if you are looking to install one of these, you have to follow the manufacturer's instructions. You have to follow your local jurisdiction and make sure that you have everything that you need and you do it safely. You know, if you are not confident and you don't feel that you can do it safely, please hire a contractor. They'll come out and they will install. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider subscribing. Please hit the like button, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody.